Hello everyone. Today I want to share about Genesis chapter 30. Based on Genesis 29 and 30, I made the Jacob's family tree. Um, Jacob went to the Laban, his uncle, and he worked 7 years to get the Rachel. However, Laban gave Jacob Leah because Rachel is younger than Leah. And then after that, he worked 7 years more to get the Rachel. Um, Jacob loved Rachel more than Leah. However, God gave Leah first the sons, the four sons, Reuben, Simon, Levi, and Judah. And then Rachel was very sad and envied her sister. So she gave her servant Bilhah to Jacob to have sons. And then Bilhah gave birth to Dan and Naphtali. So Dan and Naphtali are first and second sons to Bilhah, but uh, f- Jacob's sons older is they are fifth and sixth. So Leah also gave her servant Zilpah. So she also gave the birth Gad and Asher. So they are seventh and eighth sons, but to Jilpah, they are first and second. And then after that, Leah gave birth again. To her, they are fifth and sixth, but to Jacob, they're ninth and tenth include them, if they include them. And then Dinah is the daughter, only one daughter, and then she is the seventh child to the Leah. After that, finally, God gave Rachel a son, and that is a Joseph. He is 11th son. So here we can see when Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, she envied her sister. She said to Jacob, "Give me children, or I shall die." Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, "Am I in the place of God who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb?" So here we can see that Jacob confessed that pregnancy is under God's control, not the matter of his willingness. And it teaches us that God leads every situation according to his will. It also teaches us that we should admit his sovereign will. And Genesis 30, verse 22 also say that then God remembered Rachel, and God listened to her and opened her womb. She conceived and bore a son and said, "God has taken away my reproach." And she called his name Joseph, saying, "May the Lord add to me another son." Here, Rachel confessed that God finally listened to her prayer request. It teaches us that God answers to our prayer requests if it is His will. It also teaches us that God answered to us at His timing in His ways. So we are in Him. We are in God. God, we can see the God's active involvement in our lives. The birth story of Jacob's children show us that God's sovereignty over our lives. God involved in their lives actively and control every situation. Like that, God involved our lives and control everything. God fulfills his will at his timing in his ways. Also, we are in him. It also tells us that we are part of God's story. God involved our story, and because it is a part of God's story, God fulfills his will at his timing in his ways. Thus, we should admit his sovereignty and obey it. In Genesis chapter 29, we see that God's comfort for grieving hearts Leah, because Jacob loved Rachel. God comforted Leah through four sons. So Reuben, Simon, Levi, and Judah, right? So through their names, we can see God is in center of their lives. Also, Genesis 30 also can see Dan. The Dan is Bilhah's son, but Bilhah is Rachel's servant. So Rachel confessed like this: when Bilhah gave birth to Dan, God had judged me and has also heard my voice and given me a son. So through Dan, Rachel understand that God had judged her. Issachar. Zilpah gave birth to the Issachar, and then Zilpah is Leah's servant. So when Zilpah gave birth to Issachar, Leah confessed that God has given me my wage because I gave my servant to my husband. So through Issachar, Leah also see God. And then Jubilant, Jubilant is the Leah's son. God has endowed me with a good endowment, and then now my husband will honor me because I have borne him 6 sons. So through this son, Leah also confessed to God, and then later also when confessed to God, God has taken away my reproach. So through Joseph, Rachel realized this one. So sons at the time rewards to the women and the familiar and social achievement. So more sons is a reward and achievement to the women. So what would be our reward or familiar and social achievement in our context? Through the birth story of Jacob's son, we see their God-centered mindset. Our rewards and achievements are from God. Let's live God-centered mindset to see God in our daily lives and to depend on Him. So through God-centered mindset, we can understand and interpret how God involved in our lives. And then finally, I want to thinking about our working attitude. So the verse 27 tells like this: But Laban said to him, If I found favor in your sight, I have learned by divination that the Lord has blessed me because of you. Name your ways, and I will give it to him. I will give it. Jacob said to him, You yourself know how I have served you, and how your livestock has fared with me. For you had a little before I came, and it has increased abundantly. And the Lord has blessed you wherever I turned. But now, when shall I provide for my own household? Okay. So here we can see that Jacob worked for his uncle for 40 years. Thus he requests Laban his ways. And through these verses, we can see that through Jacob, God blessed Laban. Laban also know that God blessed Laban because of Jacob. So Laban also admitted that God's blessing through Jacob. And Jacob worked for Laban very hard and contributed to increasing Laban's wealth. So Jacob, though it didn't belong to him, he worked with his best, right? For Laban's wealth. So when you work or when you will work in the future, wherever we work, we should work to reveal God's glory at our working place. The employers will acknowledge God's blessing because of you and admit God's blessing. Also, God work faithfully to positively influence your company and demand the right ways worth of your hard work. So let's remember. Number one, God fulfills his will at his timing in his ways. Number two, acknowledge his sovereignty and admit it out of obedient heart. And number three, work faithfully as a Christian. So when you think about the Jacob's family tree, please remember how they confessed God whenever they got sons. So let us put God at our center. And then from his view, let's interpret, let's understand our lives also. And then remember, we are God's we are the part of God's story. So we have to depend on him. Oh, so and then as a Christian, work faithfully. Thank you very much. God bless you.